Daily Graphic.
Well, the Daily Graphic says the FDA to shut down unlicensed canteens is one of the things FDA can do with the local authorities too. Yeah, many of our country's laws outmoded. Professor Atuguba is saying so. Tackling climate change, Ghana to receive $850 million support from Switzerland. And GCB Bank appoints Daniel Esirfi as board chairman. And Bernard, you looked at the back page, 259 MMDCs.
Okay, let me take you to the Ghanaian Times. That story makes the lead story on the front page of the Ghanaian Times this morning. It comes with a photograph of Mr. Dan Kweku Boche, who is the minister responsible for local government and rural development. Also, we are told GCB Bank, as you said, appoints new board chairman. 7 arrested over alleged murder of Jirapa Dubai CEO, and 143 Ghanaians voluntarily repatriated from Libya. They were on their way to, some other places.
Yeah. The Daily Guide says Baumia better than Mahama. That's according to Kofi Bento. A man jailed 50 years for robbery. Nana jabs Mahama over Wasi results, and then 2 of the previous stories, the MMDCs, and then 7 people arrested in Jirapa.
Let me take you to the Chronicle. Mahama's attack on Wasi results misguided. That's the president replying his predecessor. Also on the front page, we're told, I'll appoint only 40 ministers. But I feel like they reduce that.
They are coming down.
Which election?
60, 50,
there'll be 10
40,
ministers.
10.
That's good. 10 ministers running the country, you go big. And then also, Cocoa trial. Opuni closest defense. Finally, this matter has traveled a long way. And this is the current state of Aliu Mahama Stadium. Bernard, it is horrifying. Oh. It is
A
like
stadium
some
that was
desert.
built in 2008.
Oh.
It's like back to Caledon Park. Back to factory setting.
Anyway, the Anchor newspaper says scandal rocks Ahmadiyya Muslim hospitals. Management uses MOH for dubious recruitment. Victims work for 2 years without pay. That's what the Anchor is saying. Kidney patients beg churches for financial support. That's on page 3. And another SHS student dies over alleged negligence by school authorities. I don't know if it is the Brie Girls one that looks like it's a different school. Different school.
Okay, let me take you to the new finder. You fail, Asante Hene warns persons scheming to undermine and sideline Asante Man. That's a very serious warning. Also, Dr. Baumia's vision receives positive reviews. Again, the story about the unfortunate death of the Access Bank Chief Executive CEO. And then also the story we did yesterday about the DVLA receiving a state-of-the-art office complex here in the Greater Accra region.
All right, finally for me, the Business Finder. Boost for Citi, $2 billion inflows expected this year. Improve local industries, expand exports. Professor Korte to government. TBSC alumni win big at ICAG graduation. And Unilever releases 2023 results. Profit up to 20%. And on the corner, really, the bottom right corner of the graphic business, they are announcing that the editor is on leave. Just so if you are looking for it's not around.
The Daybreak newspaper says Maslock in coma. Management and staff to freely resign. Oh, really? Wow. Also, NSS releases PIN codes for 13,353 trained teachers to undertake mandatory service. GJA President floors NMC Chairman Ayeboafo and enforce laws on unplanned settlements, according to President Akufo-Addo. And finally, if you go to the Economy Times, BOG locks up 12 billion Ghana cedis from banking sector. Also, Citi to end 2024 at 13.40 Ghana cedis to $1. Hey, the thing is still going up. Baumia admits Ghana's tax regime is most punitive as he promises reforms. Bernard.
All right, let me take you online, citynewsroom.com. A few stories. Mahama says, be vigilant, don't allow government to pass draconian policies. He's speaking to NDC MPs. Also, Ayeboaf replies, DJ, blacklisting politicians, not part of democratic culture. So that war of words continues. Meanwhile, Professor J. Frimpong says, let's invest in agric and not beauty pageants. This is from yesterday's Swedu Conversations. Yeah, a serious one. There's also a different headline from that event. Demand reforms in agric sector through industrial action. Professor Canton to farmers. In a few other stories, we stand by blacklisting directive, attacks on journalists, and assault on democracy. So this back and forth between GJ and NMC continues. Meanwhile, adult committee probing Gold Coast Fund issues begins public hearing February 27. And then we also told that the rapper Dubai CEO's mayor that Upper West has lost a giant. This is the regional minister speaking. Major Online is leading with the Mahama speech. He says parties must monitor NIS operations of our planned use of Ghana card. Also, robbers shoot popular mobile money operator in Wale Wale as fresh attacks increase. Meanwhile, demand action from police, judicial of assault on journalists upon Kroma to GJA. And then Mahama is also mourning Access Bank CEO. He says it's difficult to come to terms with the tragic accident. Yeah, everybody is wondering. Then if you go to a few other stories, Star FM lead story this morning, just give me a minute, I'll bring it to you. They are talking about vote out MPP to break the corruption, Spio Gabra. So Spio Gabra is back on his feet too. Yeah. And then Pond Water Treatment Plant to undergo capacity enhancement. And then according to Joe Wise, dislodge our toilet for us. Joe Wise details reasons he finally called it quits from Parliament. He said he's tired. Toilet matter.
Toilet for where?
In his constituency, they were stressing him. He says, a request to dislodge public toilet made me quit Parliament. Like, I've done everything for these people. Now public toilet is full. This has to come in this. You know what?
But did you not hear here on this platform that when you have excellent and competent toilets,
he's tired. Only problem.
How?
So Joe Wise has been given an interview. He spoke on that issue. Let me take you to a few places of interest. Charlie, all kinds of things happening in the world. Trump seeks Supreme Court pause in 2020 election case. That's in the BBC. Reuters is also talking about France proposing Hezbollah withdrawal and border talks for Israel-Lebanon truce. And then a few other stories of interest. So let's get into the details. I think we start with the Ghanaian Times Assembly story.
Okay, so that takes me to page 9 of that newspaper. And the story says this morning that the 259 out of 261 metropolitan, municipal, and district assemblies were yesterday simultaneously inaugurated across the country. The Nkranza North and South in Bono East region were not inaugurated because they had their elections in 2021 instead of 2019, in which case their terms would have expired in 2023. Now, designated judges and magistrates swore the newly elected members and their presiding members into office. However, some assemblies could not elect their presiding members because they could not get the required two-thirds majority. Now, they swore the oath of office and secrecy. Now, yesterday's event was also in fulfillment of Article 35, Clause D of the 1992 Constitution, which enjoins the state to promote decentralization and popular participation in governance by affording all possible opportunities to the citizenry to participate in decision-making at all levels of government.
259
assemblies sworn in. Nathan has some other details on that.
Yes, that's on the back page of the Daily Graphic. Now, this one is from the Lankwantanan, the inauguration there.
Yeah.
Now, the NDC member of parliament for Medina, Francis Xavier Kojo Sosu, he said something very interesting. Now, he said that it was time for Ghana to, so he says, quote, it's time for Ghana to reconsider our MMDCs to be elected through popular elections. And this is important because it makes them directly accountable to the people they serve. Unfortunately, we have a situation where a sitting member of parliament goes to the people to solicit for votes. And for that reason, the people will bring before the MP their developmental challenges, which should be handled by the MMDCEs.
I think that should take you to the July story.
Yes.
Yes. So let me give you that story. I think it was on. Just give me a minute. I'll bring the story up to you. But it was on one of the websites where he was complaining about the way his constituents reacted. Essentially, how they perceive the work of the. Here's the story. This is Star FM Online. So a member of parliament for Bekwai and first Speaker of Parliament Joe Osei was for the first time revealed why he quit public office. The four-term lawmaker, or why is quitting? The four-term lawmaker who entered parliament as an independent candidate and later switched to the MPP will no longer return to the House for the legislature next year. Many have wondered why a lawmaker of his caliber, occupying what political book runners would describe as a safe seat, would abandon his legislative career midway. It turns out that some unreasonable demands from some constituents drove him to the decision. In an interview with EIB's parliamentary correspondent Ibrahim Alasanjo, Osewusu affectionately called Joe Wise, said a community asking him to dislodge a toilet facility he constructed despite charging fees was the last straw for him. What is worse is, and that is the worst part, indeed I will confess to you, one of the reasons that made me think it is enough, I'm not going to seek any public office again, was some communities demanding that their public toilet is full, and if I don't have those drained, then they won't vote. I kept asking myself, was it worth it? Because the first thing is that it is your personal responsibility to provide a toilet facility for yourself. Now, for some reason, we use the state money to build this one. It's been given to you. You use it. It's full. You come back and drain. You come back and ask me to drain it for you, or else you won't vote. Somebody has not even gotten the opportunity at all. Wow. Yeah, I actually tire. Don't forget, I used to be CEO of DVLA.
Yeah.
So that story is there. Let's move to other stories.
Yeah, just quickly to draw your attention to the editorial of the Ghanaian Times, which is urging all of us to ensure that new assemblies enhance development.
All right.
So if you go to the concluding paragraphs, they say that, as we have already said, the MMDAs and the associated union committees
we already said this
are training grounds
in
for
our editorial.
politics.
They are just repeating what we said. Let's move on.
Yes, front page of the Daily Graphic. FDA to shut down unlicensed canteens. Now, since all of us eat, it's important that we take note. Now, the FDA has warned that they may close canteens and food service units of public institutions if they operate without a valid, food hygiene permit from the authority. It has therefore cautioned all unlicensed food service establishments that failure to acquire the food hygiene permit by February 29 this year will attract the requisite regulatory sanctions, which may include closure of facilities, fines, and or criminal prosecutions. Now, this is contained in a statement signed by the CEO of the FDA, Dr. Delis.
Now, the war of words between GJA and NMC continues. The chairman of NMC, Yaboedu Ayeboafo, says that the blacklisting of politicians is not part of democratic culture. And they were speaking at a U.S. Embassy event. Mr. Ayeboafo criticized GJA's directive, labeling it as a dysfunctional and unproductive to the public interest. He advocates for the use of legal channels to address acts of impunity against journalists. He defended his position in an interview on Eyewitness News with Umaru Sanda, where he reiterated his stance, arguing that the directive was not democratic and an effective method to handling assaults on journalists. Now, the GJA, however, say they stand by the blacklisting directive, essentially saying that desperate times call for desperate moves, and they believe that it is within the toolkit of what journalists should use to defend themselves. Albert Jumfo, in a conversation with Umaru Sanda, stated that the attacks on journalists are also an assault on democracy, and that they would not compromise the safety of their members and would persist in blacklisting individuals who provide or perpetuate violence against journalists. So, interesting academic debate that's going on there. Then also debate on agriculture. Yesterday, Professor Richard Canton addressed the Swedu conversations, and he says we should demand reforms in the agri sector through industrial action. Very interesting and radical view. A former research scientist at Savannah Agricultural Research Institute, SARI, of CSIR, Professor Richard Canton, has urged Ghanaian farmers to take industrial action to advocate for reforms in the agri sector. He believes that the proactive approach will compel the government to address the pressing challenges confronting the agri sector. Speaking at the same program, Professor Ajay Frimpong, who is also an alumnus of Swesco, says we should stop spending money on beauty pageants and spend the money on agri.
I think they can have the two together without necessarily.
Well, let me read this angle. Associate Professor of Self-Fertility, University of Cape Coast, Professor Kwame Ajay Frimpong, has expressed deep concern about the lack of investment in the agri sector. Maybe he's talking to sponsors like companies. He further lamented the huge investment pumped into beauty pageants and musical concerts, which benefit a few, calling on Ghanaians to invest in the agri sector as well. Maybe his point is that let's prioritize agri. When we can feed ourselves, then we can entertain ourselves. Because in the hierarchy of needs, you need to be alive, you need to eat. From there, you can entertain yourself.
The fact is that many people are being employed as a result of the entertainment industry.
Okay.
The likes of Stoneboy, the likes of Ina Mariam Patti.
So it's also livelihood.
Yes, so you cannot say
I guess he uses that to just drive home the point that, look, agri should be prioritized.
Yeah, that's fair, but we should also give attention to those others. But Bernard, I want to draw your attention to stories about two institutions of state. So the first one concerns GRA completing a study on clearance of goods at Ghana Sea and Airport.
What did they find?
Now, they noted issues about delay in the release of goods to their owners. But it goes on to say in the story on page 7 of the Chronicle that on the part of declarants, there were issues like failure or delay in pre-arrival processes, such as payment of duties and completion of permit application processes, which might result in delayed clearance time, he said. Now, again, licenses, permits, and certifications issued by other state institutions in the clearance chain, such as the Food and Drugs Authority, the Ghana Standards Authority, and Plant Protection and Regulatory Services Department, could take weeks to acquire, thereby delaying application, which also affected clearance, he said. So all of these things are impacting the operations of the various ports and how things enter this country. But there's another story that concerns another state institution. ECG courts public support to fight thieves.
Yes, Fred, who did this story? People were stealing transformers.
Look at this
Eastern
one.
region.
Charlie.
They would vandalize property. It's terrible. When the light goes off, it affects all of us.
Yes. And what are they stealing it to use it for? Scrap.
Yes.
In fact,
Yes. You know, there's a lot of antisocial behavior, stealing rail lines, stealing power cables, and all of that.
What kind of,
Now, something else happened. The PRO of the Ghana Prison Service says that they are working tirelessly to rearrest a Chinese inmate who escaped from the Nsawam maximum security prison. The Chinese national was serving a 1-year sentence at Nsawam prison for theft and other serious offenses. The incident occurred after the individual allegedly feigned illness was subsequently transferred to Kolebu Teaching Hospital for medical attention on February the 7th. Reports indicate that he was initially arrested at Tema, jailed before he was transferred to the Nsawam maximum security prison. In an interview on Eyewitness News with Umaru Sanda on February 12th, Mr. Adamu, who is the prison's officer, confirmed the report, adding that his office had gathered some leads to help rearrest the inmate. But now he's already in China. He said the incident is currently under investigation. Hey, somebody from his own prison should be questioned.
There must be some connivance or acquiescence.
Charlie, he went to Kolebu. From Kolebu, he disappeared.
Respectful view.
This is serious. From maximum security prison. Hey, Ghana.
So he went to Kolebu.
And then he disappeared.
This man be Mexican.
All right, let's go to more stories.
No, let me take you to Asanteman because Asanteman is not happy. You will fail. Elvis Dako reporting for the Ghanaian, the new finder this morning says the Asantehene Otumfuo Osei-Tutu II has issued a resolute caution against any individuals or groups scheming to undermine Asanteman. Now, he emphasized that any such plans will not succeed and will ultimately be detrimental to the progress of Ghana as a whole. Now, speaking at Mensha Palace in Kumasi during the Kuntunkuni Deba to commemorate the Sagranti War and receive return of some artifacts, Otumfuo retreated the pivotal role of Asanteman in the country's development and urged for unity and collaboration.
Let's do some politics.
Well, if you go to page 3 of the Daily Guide, Baumia better than Mahama. Now, the story says the Senior Vice President of Imani Africa, Kofi Bento, has endorsed Vice President Dr. Baumia, who's the flag bearer of the NPP. According to him, Dr. Baumia is a better option to lead the country than former President John Mahama. Mr. Bento was speaking on a news program and he pointed out that when evaluating the track records of both candidates, whether in terms of corruption or transformational leadership, any measure applied against Dr. Baumia would also be a failure for Mr. Mahama.
All right.
Okay. Now, let me take you to page 2 of the Chronicle. I'll appoint only 40 ministers. Alan is making promises here. Now, Alan Chemanting, independent presidential candidate in the 2024 elections, has stated that he will appoint a maximum of 40 ministers should he be given the nod to manage the affairs of the Ghanaian economy. Now, Mr. Chemanting disclosed this in an interview with Angel FM's Kwame Tanko in Kumasi last week, Friday. Now, the interview was part of his media tour of the Ashanti region after he had successfully organized a national economic summit which discussed how to ensure economic progress from 2025.
Now, two troubling stories in the Economy Times. BOG locks up 12 billion cedi from banking sector. This is in its vaults through the unification of currency holding for the cash reserve ratio requirement on foreign currency denominated deposits and domestic currency deposits. Now, we are told that this measure was to reinforce the bank's liquidity management operations to address excess structural liquidity conditions in the market. Then the cedi, we are told, would end 2024 at 13.40 to the dollar. The Ghana cedi is expected to end 2024 at 13 cedis plus or minus 0.10 to the US dollar. According to Data Bank research, this will be influenced by expected inflows from multilateral sources. The IMF is expected to release more funds in 2024 as part of its fund support program, while the World Bank is scheduled to release 550 million, with 300 million for development policy operations. Now, then there's cocoa loan and other issues. So 13.40, that's a lot.
Oh, near the cuckoo.
13 point. Then by Charlie, I don't even know what to say again.
I thought they said they had locked the CD or the dollar up.
But the Chinese have left the prison. If Chinese man can leave
If Chinese man
maximum security
can
prison,
leave,
is it
then
dollar
that cannot leave.
If when you are putting a CD account back, you have to send him to Alcatraz. Do you know Alcatraz? If you want CD
The
to
Rock.
don't send him to Insawam. Insawam, they will escape. You know,
Brother,
it's a serious matter.
before we go though.
We have already gone.
Okay.
We are finished. Thank you, Richard Sky. Thank you, Nathan Kwao.